Hey Wesley Youth, this week we're going to walk through a couple of Jesus' well-known miracles from the Gospel of John. And by looking at these miracles, we're going to be focused on how Jesus can change even the worst or most hopeless of situations. We're calling this week's series HEALER. Today we're going to look at a story where Jesus heals a blind man. And for some context, at this point in John's account of the gospel, Jesus has been really busy. He's been traveling, he's been teaching, and he's been preaching about who he is and what he's sent here to earth to do. And he's been talking about how he is changing everything, and that doesn't go over well. Especially doesn't go over well with the Jewish elite. So where we're jumping into John's story is right where Jesus had been preaching in the temple in Jerusalem. And what he's been preaching, what he's been saying, has enraged the temple leadership. And out of their anger, the priest has charged Jesus with being demon-possessed and a liar. They even picked up rocks and threatened to stone Jesus to death. We're going to jump in right as he is leaving the temple. This is in John chapter 9. As Jesus walked along, he saw a man who was blind from birth. Jesus' disciples asked, "Rabbi, who sinned so that he was born blind, this man or his parents?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents. This happened so that God's mighty works might be displayed in him. While it's daytime, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After Jesus said these things, he spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and smeared the mud on the man's eyes. Jesus said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam." So the man went away and washed. When he returned, he could see. The man's neighbors and those who used to see him when he was a beggar said, "Isn't this the man that used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." And others said, "No, it's someone who looks like him." But the man said, "Yes, it's me." So they asked him, "How are you now able to see?" He answered, "The man they called Jesus made mud, smeared it on my eyes, and said, 'Go to the pool of Siloam and wash.' So I went and washed, and then I could see." Now that's a pretty crazy story, right? We're going to walk through it and we can see what we can take away about Jesus as a healer. Now Jesus makes it pretty clear to his disciples that this man was not blind because of something he did. His blindness wasn't a result of his sin, which means he didn't deserve to be blind. No one deserves to be blind. And I'll be honest, if that was me in his situation, I'd be a bit upset with God. I would wonder why God would make me go through life like this. It wouldn't feel fair at all. But God didn't cause this man to be blind. The chaos of the world, the separation of the world from God's original design, that was the reason for this ailment, all ailments. And the good news is that God can do something about it through Jesus. So here's where Jesus gets a little gritty. He spits into the dirt to make mud. Think about the disciples at this point. I'd be thinking that Jesus has finally lost it, but the story doesn't end there. Then Jesus mixes the mud around with his fingers. Again, really weird to watch anyone do this, let alone Jesus. But then Jesus scoops up the mud and he smears it on the blind man's face. Yep, that just happened. Jesus puts his spit mud directly into the blind man's eyes. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't even imagine what I would do if I was watching this happen. More than likely, I would be dumbstruck trying to figure out what I just witnessed. But in that, well, let's just call it nastiness, God is still at work. And Jesus tells the man to go wash his face, and what happens? Boom. Now all of a sudden, the blind man can see. What a miracle. What I think is really cool about this story is that Jesus doesn't use anything special, just dirt and spit. And the outcome is life-changing for the man. But here's the secret. It wasn't really about the dirt. It wasn't really about the spit. This miracle was all about Jesus. Jesus is the one who healed. Now, we're all in some tough situations right now, and each one of us has our own perspective on this pandemic, but I think we would all agree that we'd like for it to go away, like maybe yesterday. But if we can look at the story of the blind man, we can see this miraculous power of Jesus, the healer. Now think about this. Why do you think this is the first person that Jesus runs into when he leaves the temple in Jerusalem? Now, in the beginning of the story, we don't get the exact details, but we can pretty safely assume that the blind man is there at the temple begging, asking for help, because his disability has a huge impact on his daily life. And within the cultural context that he's living, he's probably pretty helpless, and more than likely hopeless, until Jesus comes on the scene. Jesus meets this man in his hopelessness, and he heals him. Now here's the good news. Jesus can do the exact same thing for us. No matter what the source of our hopelessness is, he can heal us. That's what the message of Jesus is all about. Now we're in the midst of a crisis that's going to impact us. It's going to have a lasting impact on the world around us, and it's completely normal for that impact to cause us to feel hopeless at times. But as followers of Jesus, we can understand that we have access to the ultimate healer. And with Jesus on our side, we can overcome even the most hopeless situations. We're never alone with Jesus on our side. Now, I want to be clear here. There's going to be some things from our perspective that don't miraculously change. Things in the past will always be there. The important dates and events that we're missing and have been canceled, those aren't going to come back. But the point is that through our healer, we can find hope. Even in the most difficult situations, they may not all end the way that we dreamed, but we can overcome them with our faith. Hope in the midst of hard times truly is a miracle given to us by our healer, Jesus. Amen.